Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Building Power. I'm your host, Zakiya Jabbar, and I am delighted to be back with you today. We were off last week for the holiday break and hope that you all had a good holiday. I know that lots of folks' plans were canceled, including my own, because of the new restrictions that many states have implemented, and certainly because of the CDC recommendations. But we are back, and we're back talking about all things education and education justice related. So to that end, I'm excited to welcome my guest today, Brother Reggie Jenkins, who is doing some amazing work down in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we're going to get a peek at what's happening in the South, in the Southeast in particular. And I think it's important, at least, from my perspective, that we hear from folks in all regions in our country. A lot of times we tend to kind of focus on, not we as in our show, but I would say, when I think about like education advocacy, you usually think about either the coast or you think about big cities. And as someone who grew up in the rural South, I know that there's an entire constituency out there that certainly doesn't have it all made. And we want to certainly give them a platform to talk about what education is looking like in smaller cities, particularly in the Southeast. Where in many of those cities, I know that's the case in Alabama in the Black Belt, the schools are rural, but they're also African American predominantly. So Reggie Jenkins is our guest today. He is a speaker, an author, and educational consultant. Along with these roles, he also serves as a founder and executive director of the UUNIK Academy Incorporated. He received his education from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, where he majored in mathematics and had a minor in statistics. After completing his studies, Reggie earned his bachelor's degree of science. Although Reggie has a love of mathematics, his one true passion has always been to help youth as they navigate their way in life. So the past 25 years, Reggie's life has been spent working with young people and learning how to prepare them for a successful and productive future. He served in various roles with the Knoxville County school system and has had volunteered with local youth programming as well. In 2003, Reggie founded the UUNIK Academy, which is based there in Knoxville. And since then, he has cultivated the leadership of young people in African American history, self-esteem, and even teen entrepreneurship. Wow, that's amazing. And welcome to Building Power today, Brother Reggie. Tell us a little bit more about your work and journey. We're excited to learn more about what's happening in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, first and foremost, I got to say thank you, Zakiya. I'm a follower of yours. I'm a supporter of you. You are greatness within this country. I appreciate all the efforts that you do. And thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to share what I do. Again, my name is Reggie Jenkins, originally from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised in Memphis. Went to University of Tennessee, been in Knoxville over 30 years, and just have a real passion about young people and education. And it stemmed from my father. My father owned a barbershop when I was growing up. And he worked with a lot of, because of course, people in the black barbershops and the beauty shops, you're not just a barber or a hairstylist, you're a counselor, you're an educator, you're a father figure, you're all these different things. So he, with his example and my family's example, you was talking about rural, both my mother and father from a small town in Mississippi called Duncan. And when I was growing up as a baby, every summer they would ship me to Duncan because my grandmothers lived like maybe half a mile from each other in little dirt roads, cesspool, and all that stuff. So I know what you're talking about because I spent a lot of my youth in rural part of, in rural South in Mississippi. And Duncan is like 90 miles south of Memphis. So I definitely know what you're talking about. But I discovered my passion. We grew up in a time where, especially in my teenage years, when you start talking about hip hop, you're talking about KRS-One, Public Enemy, West Coast, the South, Tribe Called Quest. We had A Different World. So we grew up in an eclectic time where, being black was something, was in a sense, in the fact that, I discovered who I was in my early college years. So I just developed a passion for helping our own young people. As I learn, I try to pour into them. And so I started off volunteering with other organizations and helped develop curriculum, programming, and all that kind of stuff. And I just noticed that a lot of particular after-school programs were really just extended day babysitting, daycare, and there was not a lot of educational things going on. So I created UUNIK Academy in 2003 to be an educational force. I want our children, all our children are geniuses. They just haven't been given the opportunity to shine. And so UUNIK Academy is five of the principles of Kwanzaa. So U is Umoja, unity, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, Nia, purpose, Imani, faith, and Kuchakalia, self-determination. So I just put those together and created UUNIK, UUNIK Academy. And so that's what we wanted to do. Starting off, it was kind of like, when you start an organization, because not only I started an organization, I wrote the grant. I wrote my bylaws, corporate bylaws. I wrote the thing to the IRS. I did all of that on my own. I had a friend of mine, he worked at the local urban league, and he kind of mentored me as to how to do it, but I did it all on my own. And the first 5 to 8 years was kind of like a feeling, trying to figure out where my path was. And for the past 6 to 8 years, we kind of found our groove as far as what we want to do, especially the past couple of years, because UUNIK Academy, we work with over 4,000 youth in Knoxville.
I was going to ask, tell us about the impact that you all have had with young people and the age group that you are targeting.
We target 5 to 15. I have various programming. We going small. When I first started, I started with middle school and high school. But what happens with middle school and high school boys, they find other interests. And parents seem to think the older the child get, the less discipline and structure they need. They give them a lot of freedom. Even though the child may be struggling academically, but they put them in sports, or they put them in this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, academics, life skills, all that's number one. And so a lot of my young people start to go to sports and other activities, and I would lose them. And so what I had to do was go younger, because the younger children wasn't as involved in other things. And so, like I said, we work with 4,000 youth, and I'm gonna tell you some of the programs that we sponsor. We've had a thing called Calling All Males Youth Conference. We've had over 700 young boys. Every January, we will have a conference at a local museum here where we get 50 to 70 young people at a time. And what I do is I get men to come in and do various workshops, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be financial literacy. We'll do a physical fitness piece. We'll do a historical piece, knowing your worth and self-value. So I wanted to be a day where it's at least 10 men surrounding these boys, and we just have a sharing. We do workshops, but we also give them the time to, what's on your mind? What's some of the things that's pertaining to you, that's important to you, that you want to share in a safe space? So we do that. I do ACT prep. I do ACT prep twice a year, and then we're going to do it online, particularly for students 8th to 11th grade.
That's amazing.
I even have them as 7th grade. I just finished one in October, and I had a couple 7th graders in there. I'm trying to get young people exposed early, because typically people start thinking like, okay, 11th, 12th grade, you have to think about college. No, you need to think in middle school. I know by the time your child in the 4th, 5th grade, whether they can get to that level or not. That's not exact science, because some of us are late bloomers, but typically you can tell if your child is into it academically by the time they 4th or 5th grade. And so I think even with the babies I serve right now, I teach 5, 6-year-olds ACT words. I get them ACT words. I get them exposed early, because that's when you got to start planting that seed. So we do ACT prep. About 5 years ago, I started STEAMy's Summer Institute. Because again, between August and May, a lot of these children go to school, then they got all these activities in the afternoon. So it's hard for somebody like me to get them in during the fall and spring. So I catch them in the summer. And so I started a summer learning academy. So a summer school in a sense is 7 weeks, and it's targeted 5 to 10-year-olds. And what I do is it's called STEAMY. STEAMY stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, Math, Innovation. It serves two purposes: to strengthen the academic core, because a lot of our young people are struggling academically, and to introduce them to the world of STEAM. And we do field trips to Oak Ridge National Laboratory. I bring in chemists. I bring in various people. So a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old can already be inundated with STEM, because it's where we are right now. I tell children, if you can thumb hustle, I call it thumb hustle when they play these video games. If you can thumb hustle, you can learn coding. You can learn the science behind that game and create your own game. You know,
that's it.
And so we have to start doing that with our children. So I started that 5 years ago, and we did it this summer. Actually, I had 16 boys this summer in the midst of COVID. A church allowed us to use their facility. We wiped everything down. We made sure it was safe. We had 6-foot tables, one child on each end. They had masks. We sanitized it, and for 7 weeks we had no problems. You know,
wow.
Kids couldn't come in or whatever. But it was 3 adults and 16 boys, and they learned. They were safe. We fed them, all that kind of stuff. It was from 9 to 3 every day, Monday through Friday, except for the 4th of July week. But and we had no problems. And so that spurred me to say, you know what, I need to start school. That's
what I wanted to get to, because right, you know, we talked about this before we got started. So like, what is schooling actually looking like now for the young people that you've been serving, you know, in your community? And how is that? So tell us the relationship between your organization, if there is one, with the school system there. Is it like some of the demographics, like is the school system predominantly, you know, white? Are the teaching force predominantly white? How do you work with, if you work with the school system? And because of this COVID piece, are schools in Knoxville? Are they out? Are they doing a hybrid schedule? Give us a little bit of understanding of what's happening currently.
Okay, for the first question, I used to work in the school system years ago. And so I kept the relationships with parents, teachers, principals. That's how I get a lot of my students, through word of mouth and as teachers. So I have a great relationship with like middle school, high school. I even have like a pre-K school that calls me in every year and do a parent orientation. And so I have a great relationship with a lot of the parents. Now, Knox County, I say it's about 66,000, maybe 70,000 students. Majority of them are white. It's majority white. Black people make up less than 15% of the population, maybe around 10, 11% of the population here. So it's majority white. 90% or more of the teachers are white, even in the Black schools. And so they have a real problem here because, you know, a few years ago, they had a disparity studies about suspensions, and in elementary school, like Black children make up less than 10% of elementary school, but they made up over 60% of the out of school suspension. And I'm just talking about talking bad, tantrum, not no
prison pipeline,
life in and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there like, they suspending these children. And like every city, the town, I have a committee and all this foolishness, but nothing ever comes of it.
Never.
It's frustrating. And so, you know, a lot of parents right now is frustrated now with COVID. It really ticked me off when COVID hit in March, because this town didn't have any really solid plans educating children. Our children actually, before COVID, they pretty much out of school in January because of the flu. They had floods, and they went to school in February, and then March hit, and they was out for 6 months. Now the city did make an effort to feed them, the county schools to feed the children, because a lot of our children depend on schools to get a meal every day. But outside of handing them packages of work that they've already done, they didn't do a lot of efforts to teach them as far as Zoom and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. They didn't even get the kids online?
They was making up excuse about IEP kids and federal laws. You know, all the kids got to be educated. And so what I did was, I have educators in Nashville, friends in Georgia, And I called around and said, what y'all doing? Like Memphis, and the children was on Zoom. They was online.
Right.
Here, from March to August, nothing. Now, certain schools were making efforts, and then the county shut them down. The Kent school board shut them down because
Wow.
certain upper middle class parents was like, we need to do something. So the principal and certain teachers made efforts to do it, but the Knox County school shut them down. So for 6 months they wasn't doing that. Now I got to give you something else, Zakiya. Before COVID, and I got this stat, the Tennessee Department of Education come up with a school report card every year, every 2 years. So the last report I dug into, over 80% of Black students here between 3rd and 8th grade are not proficient in the areas of reading, math, like 60% of them are not proficient in science. So they really struggling here. This before COVID. And so they didn't make a lot of efforts, which led to my frustrations for the students. So I was like, I got to do something to step up. And so, like, even right now, there's like 60-some thousand students, about 20,000 are virtual. The other ones are in school, but the virtual kids are flunking. They're flunking.
Yeah, I saw that. I've been seeing that the virtual kids, there was a report that came out. I'm in the DC area, and there was a report that came out, the Alexandra City Schools, which is in Northern Virginia, that the flunking was up 83%,
Yes.
and they're all virtual. All the schools, like even my kids' school here in Maryland, they're all virtual, but we have teachers unions that are actually fighting to keep the schools all virtual, despite the fact that it's not working for literally the majority of young people. Even though you have public health officials, I believe, including even Dr. Fauci, that it says schools need to open. They need to open safely. So it's certainly a point of contention. And I, even shared an article, and maybe we can put a link to that, in the comments. But the parents in California are suing because in California, in their state constitution, they have a right to public education. We don't have that as a federal right in the federal national constitution, but many states, like Maryland, where I am, they have it in the state constitution. So some parents are leveraging their state constitutions and filing lawsuits and saying, this isn't working. This is actually contributing to exacerbating the already gaps that you're talking about that happened in Tennessee. And I imagine Tennessee, I'm just going to assume, don't get mad at me, probably don't have a state constitutional mandate for a right to education.
And even we got to be creative. Like one of the things I suggested was, okay, you got all these churches around here. Why not assign a teacher to these empty big buildings and have a room where you have 10 children and a teacher? And you could make it a community thing.
Yeah.
We all are suffering, but it takes leadership to do that. It's like, let's think outside of the box. Okay, you don't want all the children in the schools. Let's do this. Let's make it safe to where we have churches, we have communities, we have museums. We have, right now I'm at the Phyllis Wheatley WCA. They rent me space to have my school for my students. And I keep them safe. We don't have any problems.
How many students do you have in your school?
Huh?
How many students do you have in your school?
Right now I just have 2. I'm gonna get 3 more in January. But I had 3. One left, so I got 2. And so I'm not taking no more than 5 because of the space I have.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Once I get a building, I can take more. But right now, I just have a couple of students right now with me every day, and I teach them or whatever. So, but we can utilize the community. I mean, really, we have to do something. People don't have to take either parents going to step up and teach them, or your child is just accept the fact that your child going to be 2 or 3 years behind. And once all is over with, you're going to have to do extreme things to catch them up. Because how
are parents, because the economy, let's be clear, the economy isn't shut down. How are parents expected to teach if they're working?
They can't. I'm talking about those parents who are fighting to keep this. I shouldn't say parents. I should say to the teachers union who are fighting this. It's not the parents, but the parents.
So Tennessee has a teachers union that is fighting as well.
No, no, I was referring to the DC
Yeah,
area.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because I didn't think y'all had collective bargaining
no,
in Tennessee. I know they have unions, but I don't think they actually have like bargaining
bargaining
power
power.
in the
No,
South.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. But here they working. A lot of the parents working, but the children are not being taught. So Knox County made it mandated that the kids go back to school because they see in the grades, they seeing that these children are failing at an alarming rate. So the superintendent and the school board are like, y'all going back to school. So all the kids who are virtual are going back in January. So now we're not having that problem here, but I do think they're gonna have to do some things in terms of in the summertime, maybe going year round. They're gonna have to revisit that because even when they go back, it's just so much. I talk to teachers and principals. They gotta catch them up because they've been out of school practically almost all year. So it's like
In Knoxville, this is the first time I think I've heard that they literally made no effort back in March to teach kids other than giving them packets.
yep. That they made no effort here.
And the teachers still and the staff, everybody still got paid.
Paid.
Oh wow.
They got paid. They got paid. So no, so it's gonna be something to see. They're even saying it's gonna be at least 2 or 3 years. I just can't afford. I just think Black people can't afford to just wait on our laurels for the system. We have to do stuff outside the system. We have to advocate in it, but we have to do stuff outside the system to make sure not just my child, but the children around him or her is brought up to speed.
Wow. That's that's very heartbreaking to hear. I mean, that's actually really heartbreaking, for me to hear. I'm glad that you have started a school. I guess my next question is to your point that you made about like there needs to be a community effort since there isn't a lot of education happening. I believe you mentioned that 20,000 students are online and then some other students are back in school. In terms of other like community partnerships and collaborations, can you speak a little bit more about that? Are there other efforts similar to yours to like maybe even some of the churches like start their own institutions to teach?
Well, it's one church that had a preschool, but when COVID hit, everybody's in fear. So the churches are literally shut down here. Black churches. There are some white churches there. They're doing their thing, but Black churches, no. Nah. Not to my knowledge. Most of all of them shut down. I talk to pastors and stuff, and they want to start, they even want to start service, but the congregation don't want to go back. And I understand their concerns and fear, but as far as other efforts to teach these children, educate, I don't know anybody else trying, to do anything else.
So people so fearful they don't even want to try?
Not to my knowledge. I don't, and I'm real connected, but there's not a lot of effort. Now there's some other nonprofits like Shore Foundation. She's one. I know she's a Black, or Tanika Harper. She's another organization, and there may be one or two others, but the churches, no.
Okay.
No, they shut down. And that's my whole contention. Is like, they talk about the mask staying 6 feet apart, where you can spread children out.
Right.
And teach and have a mask on. If they go into school every day with masks on and teaching, you can do that in somebody's building, but people don't want to. People are so afraid, man, that they don't even want to try.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe with this vaccines and everything that are coming out, maybe, people will be a part of the first round of that and can kind of go back to some sense of normalcy. That's good. Now, in terms of your school and your students, tell us about your plans of expansion. You started to talk about that a little bit, and then we got sidetracked. But I want to hear a little bit more about your offerings and potential plans of expansion of getting a few more students in.
Okay, my school is called STEAMY Learning Center. It's kind of inspired by the summer program we did. And I really wanted to start a school a while ago. I was inspired. I got to give a shout out to Marcus Klein, Freedom Home Academy in Chicago.
Yes, the brother in Chicago.
I saw him. Me and him been tight for a while. I also got to give a shout out to a sister named Queen Thais. She does a homeschool expo.
That's right. In Atlanta every year.
So my wife and I, before we had a child, my wife and I was like, we're going to homeschool our child. We're not going to send our kid to the school system because we knew where I was. And
Yeah.
so when Jabari, my son Jabari was born, we started going to the homeschool academy in Atlanta. And I knew Marcus before then, but he did a presentation there. And so, and at the time, his time got cut off, but we were so impressed. I was like, I'm going to Chicago. So 2 years ago, a friend of mine, we went to Chicago, met with him, talked with him, open. And when this pandemic is over, I'm going back up there. He's helped me. He's been instrumental as far as helping me with the curriculum.
Wow.
Friends, teachers, they helped me with the curriculum. And so what I did was I'm developing a curriculum.
This is so inspiring.
Yeah, that's my dude, man. And so I developed a curriculum based off various models. But what we do is my school is going to cater first to K through probably 4th grade for right now.
Okay.
Our goal is we're going to get 20 students. I had when I did a information session, I had over 20 parents in there. But because of financial stuff and whatever, they couldn't commit to a time, and the financial thing but they really interested in the school. And so I just started with 3 or 4 students just to build. My first year, since COVID is going on, I just worked with a small group and developed my curriculum and everything else. But what I want to do, like I said, I'm probably my first year in 2021, once I get a building, is to have probably 20 kids. My goal is my school would never have no more than 50 children. But what we're going to do is create a system so we can satellite it, so I can create other schools. Because I have parents in Nashville, Memphis, interested, because people know what I do here in Tennessee. So they're interested in me, say, when you do that there, can you come here? So I want to create a system of education to where I can train somebody to come in and do the same thing similar to wherever area, but we'll always keep the schools like 50 or less. And so we'll do areas of African American literacy, phonetic skills. We'll deal with, of course, the math. It'll be accelerated math, grammar. I have a Spanish teacher. I just signed a buddy of mine. He's a jazz pianist. He's going to teach piano.
Wow.
I have
the arts in there.
Huh?
I say, got to have the arts in there.
Yeah. So I got a pianist in there. I got a retired electrical engineer. He comes with my babies every week. And he's committed long term to come and teach the STEM. Teach about generating electricity and all that kind of stuff. So I want to incorporate the community, because every city we have resources of people who are whatever. We just don't bring them in. And I'm gonna have a private school. I'm not gonna be a charter school or anything like that. I'm gonna be a private industry, so I can do whatever I want. And I even called the state of Tennessee about the requirements, and they was like, for my nonprofit UUNIK Academy, they was like, you can have a school within the nonprofit, so long the nonprofit stay in good standings with the state. We good with that. And so the Learning Center is going to be under UUNIK Academy umbrella. And
that way you can raise money to support the school, and it's tax deductible. Yep. That's brilliant, brother.
Yeah, and matter of fact, Zakiya, in August, I started Drive for 25.
Okay.
If you go to my website, you'll see Drive for 25. My goal is to get 500 people to donate $25 a month. And that'll offset the tuition costs to tuition
for the families who can't afford it, because it's private.
Because when you talk about private schools, it's only the upper middle class Black people who can do that. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I have a good mixture of our Black children and children who may not be able to. I can offset some of that cost, and they can get a great educational experience.
Right.
We're doing that. And one of the places I'm looking at is a building I'm looking at. It has a playground. We're going to make that into a STEM playground, STEM center playground. And we have another playground where we're going to make it into a greenhouse where they can learn how to bring somebody in to teach them agricultural stuff and stuff like that. And I want a technology. Wow. We're going to have a technology center to where I got a young man, he's in high school, senior in high school. He teaches coding. So we had a coding class. I started this fall with a coding class for about 4 students between 9 and 15. They loved it. So we're going to continue that as well. So what we're doing with my school is I want to generate different revenues of income to feed the school. And I even have a young lady, Dr. Stephanie Hill. She has a daycare in Memphis, but she's also she's helped start three charter schools in Memphis, one in Mississippi, as far as the generation, the operational side of things. So she's working with me too to make sure that I have all my stuff ducks in a row,
Right.
wise. And so yeah, it's a community effort, man. And like I said, that because I listen to you and previous people talk and all these educators. And I'm like, we need more private schools, and we need to figure out how we can do this ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? And so,
and I think, in the spirit of, when the charter movement kind of like first started, I believe, that was at least some of the spirit was that you can still reach the kids that you want to reach who can't afford a private school tuition. And still be able to have the autonomy around curriculum and some of the things and teachers you want to hire, because, in public schools, there's a lot of bureaucracy that kind of pushes back on some of the innovation that people wanted to do. Now, there's a lot of, as you know, controversy around public versus charter now. And there, certainly have been some areas of contention, even when some charter schools, especially the big chain charter schools, who are not necessarily living up to that standard of what the community actually wants. And what you're talking about is actually community centered. And actually, what I believe families would kind of gravitate to. But I love the fact that you're looking at different models to be able to support and sustain the school without having to compromise it by accepting, funding,
large monies, large grants. I mean, I know the game. I know that if somebody donate $1 million, they want control. No, if I can get 1,000 people to give $1,000, I got my $1 million. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to get it from one source. I just got to have residual income. And so that's also another thing I want to do, is just do like 5-minute clip videos to help parents other places say, hey, these are some of the things you can do with your 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and get them, because we can't wait till our child is 5-year-olds and send them somewhere. We got to start educating them when they come out the womb.
Yes.
Well, even
that's something Amos Wilson constantly talked about. Yeah,
we got to educate them in the womb. When they come out, we got to talk and enunciate, talk to them. Show them cards, flash method. I understand, like, when you're a baby, when the children are young, the flash method is great. But when they get older, we stop using the flash method. It's like, teach them flashcards and stuff like that. Whatever. Teach them with music. Develop a program. So I want our children. I'm in the business of making geniuses. We got enough athletes and entertainers in our world. We need geniuses. We need problem solvers. Like Flint, Michigan, the water problem should be solved by some 18, 19-year-olds who studied that for 5 years and say, here's just what we can do. We can use recyclable this, and that other. We're waiting on other folks to solve our problem. Our children are the ones who are going to be those problem solvers in this world. You know what I'm saying? That's what we got to train, but we got to give them a safe space to where their brains can just flow and come up with the ideas.
That's another brilliant point that you make, because a lot of times, and we don't talk about this very often, is that the traditional schools, everything is so rigid, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's actually like industrial. It's like, the single file lines. There isn't a lot of encouragement unless you are in a different kind of like, school that somebody paying $50,000 a year for. But the schooling, in terms of, there is a lack of encouraging young people to have critical thinking skills. Everything is very, very rigid. And I'm saying from my experience as a parent, like even watching, like even preschoolers, everything is like so controlled and manipulated. We need the kids to do this instead of allowing kids to be free, to encourage free thinking and to allow them to like go to what they're actually interested and attracted in and cultivate that and build that up. You're right that we do have a lot of kids who are geniuses. It's just that, unfortunately, I think a lot of times school actually stamps that out.
Yeah, they kill the spirit. They somebody said decades ago, they call them the killing fields because they kill that spirit. And I mean, that's what they do. It's the current public schools was designed in the 1800s. This is a great book by John Taylor Gatto. It's The Underground History of American Education. Great book. John Taylor Gatto was this award-winning New York teacher. So he's passed on, but he wrote like Dumbing Us Down and The Underground History of American Education. They call this man, and he researched the history of American education. And it was by the industrialists, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, who also controlled the big farm, the medical system. So they created a system to just what you were saying, to create laborers and managers of laborers. Now it's the prison industrial complex that's entered the mix with Black children. And so we have to break from that bondage. Even private schools, I have friends who pay money for these elite private schools, and they in there calling them N-words, and it's a hostile. They may get a little bit better because they got a little bit of technology or whatever, but they in a hostile environment, they pay $20,000, $30,000 for their children to be mistreated. It's like, what?
That's nuts. Really?
They paying that much money here in these elite white private colleges thinking we're going to get a better. To me, education is about growth and development, critical thinking.
That's it.
I'm teaching these young people. I got some second graders. I told them in 2 years, you'll be teaching my kindergartners because you will know enough to teach. I don't have to have a whole lot of adults in the building because my babies are going to be leaders to teach the other babies.
You're teaching leadership development. That's
and then also after like a certain grade, I just give you the curriculum, the syllabus. You go out and find it. Because there's two types of education. One somebody gives you, one you give yourself. The one you give yourself is a whole lot better. Me and you can attest to this. It's the things we discovered.
Yes, I can to attest to that.
we discovered stuff on our own that
I sure did.
PhD can never touch. You know what I'm saying? So I want to train them young. Children should be graduating at 14, 15 years old. You shouldn't be wasting all this time in no school. Because by that time, you pretty much know what you want. If I cultivate you by 14, 15, and this is what you want, I'm going to give you the blueprint to get there. Now, it's up to you to do it. But I'm not going to hold you hostage for another 3 or 4 years because somebody said it. No, my baby's graduating at 13, 14, 15. If you want to go to college, I'll get you there. If you want to go to trade school, I got you. If you want to just go to work, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I got you. That's on you, because at that age, you got enough time to make mistakes. And if you want to change the course of your direction, fine, we're good. But I just want to be there to support you. But I want you to be fundamentally sound. You got to be able to read, articulate your thoughts, communicate effectively, think, problem solve, build a bond with other people and bring something to the table. We got to teach our children, because the children, if you look at any movement, it was young folks, civil rights or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Where's the Fred Hampton? Fred Hampton was 18 years old out here in court debating.
Yeah.
Where is that at now?
Right.
I want to bring those kids, the lawyers, the business people, the coders, web developers. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm going to lean into that a little bit because and I don't know whether you've seen this in terms of, I guess it's a field that's called ed tech. And we're certainly, I've been studying like economics and finances and the markets and the people who, have these meetings and decide, how the economy is going to operate. So like the World Economic Forum and all these different, entities. And one of the things that I see on the horizon that I don't see people talking about, Reggie, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, is the rise of ed tech. Particularly, we have seen a rise of fintech, ed tech, all these different techs, like, this is going to be a technocracy. Cars, self-driving cars, autonomous driving cars, like all of that stuff is coming by 2025, 2030. Google has a self-driving car called Waymo, but I don't see people talking about that in mass. Like, how are we preparing today's children for a world where the jobs that we traditionally have had over the last century or so will some of those jobs, are just going to be obsolete because of technology. Like, how are we preparing young people, and how are we preparing for an education that's increasingly becoming more technologically driven? COVID has, as you see, has exacerbated that, which is actually, one of the contentions that I've had with teachers union. As I was like, well, maybe it's a moving train. That's how Razan says that we're not going to be able to stop. But I don't necessarily think that completely using technology to educate specifically young children, pre-K, kindergarten, first, I would say all the way up to middle school, is going to be really appropriate. And I think we started off talking about the fact that a lot of kids are failing in this virtual learning environment. We have the data, and if this is where we're going, then how can communities and other people, spend partial time pushing back on that? But at the same time, if it's a moving train and there are people who have already decided that this is going to be it, then we need to be coming up with our own set of values and missions about, okay, well, we have to figure out, like we did in the earlier, 20th century and late 19th century, we have to educate our own children. We have to do it in the best way that we can. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of like
I think the latter is I think it's a moving train. Like,
it is.
These people plan 50, 100 years out. When you talk about the World Economic Forum, this is a group of rich white boys and a few colored folks in the mid planning, mapping out what their vision of the world is. But that's not necessarily have to be reality. What we have to do, we have to practice Sankofa. Go back 100 years. We had over 600 townships in this country. We got to go back to that and just create them small. We don't have to, like, I can be in Knoxville and connect with you in DC, connect with somebody else, and we create a village to where we create little things to where your child needs something, I got it. If this child needs something, I got it. Resources, that kind of thing. We can do that. But at the same time, locally, we can affect. For me, this is how I see, like in Knoxville, people didn't believe it until I created it, and I was consistent with it. Now now when I say open a school, people believe in me because I've been consistent for 17 years doing what I've done. I've affected their child. That child went to college, or they married, or whatever. I have children who have children. I'm working with their children now.
Wow.
And so it's that consistency. Marcus Klein says repetition, intensity, and frequency, RIFs. We just have to be consistent with it. But we have to build our own Noah's Ark. It's about to flood for Black people. It's flooding Black people.
It's flooding now.
Here. So we got to create our own arcs. You know what I'm saying? And I tell you this, Zakiya, my model is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A as a restaurant has a system that none of them other fast foods can touch. They have less stores per capita than McDonald's or whatever, but they make more money per store than all the
do. You ever seen them lines at Chick-fil-A? It's ridiculous. And I could never figure it out. Like, why is this place always packed?
If you study the science to it, it's really like McDonald's. It's really not about the food. McDonald's don't make the best burger. McDonald's just have the best real estate. They are strategically placed in areas where there's a lot of heavy traffic.
Yeah.
So people gonna come. Chick-fil-A, it's the environment, it's the customer service, it's the whole package. People buy into those feelings. If somebody treats you like a $1 million, you give your whole wallet to them. I mean, if you go on the street terms, you talk about pimps. The best pimps are the ones who got that psychological, got that charm, smile. He can make you mad one minute, next minute, and just take all your money after working. That's how it's psychological, industrial psychology.
Psychology. That's funny. There was a class when I was in college that was offered. It called industrial psychology. And I remember it was an option for me to take, and I decided to take abnormal psychology versus that. But I remember reading the description like, oh, this sounds interesting. But that's exactly what it is.
And so, but same thing with educating the children. If I make the experience to where your child wakes you up and say, Mom, we got to go to school. I got to get to school. Something's about to happen today, or this, that, and the other.
And that's the opposite of what kids do.
Yes.
They hate
the thing about it is, I'm a Black man. You don't see that. A lot of these children don't see Black men teaching them. I want
That's
black
real.
boys and black girls at my school because they should have the experience of black male nurturing. You know,
Yes.
our children ain't being nurtured by men. Some of them, a lot of them are not. You know, they don't know how to be educated in a safe space, talking about Madam C.J. Walker or Ida B. Wells. My children talk about In Hotel. We talk about Queen and Zinga. We talk about this, that, and the other. I want them to know those people. I want them
That's
to
right.
feel in a safe space and understand that, no, you know math. You are math. Your ancestors created this. You can do
Right.
this. You know what I'm saying? And just have them feel that way. We have a unique pledge that they have to say every day. Who am I? I am unique. I'm like an eagle soaring through the sky. I am great. There's no need to wonder why. I'm a smart, handsome, determined young brother who was born to win. Failure is not an option. I'm a leader, not a follower of fools. I'm unique. The path of greatness is what I choose. I'm a winner. I will never quit. I strive to be a responsible adult, not a grown male. I strive to be in control. I will not fail. I'm unique. I love the person that I am. I'm a unique male striving to be a unique man. I got to say it every day. Every day.
That's affirmation.
That's right. You know, even my former students who are 35, 25, 30, they know that. You know, because I drilled it in them. You know, we got to do that for our children. If they can know all these songs on the radio, they can learn this stuff. So
that's beautiful.
We have to create our own alternative. You know, power is, to me, like the elections. A lot of people are upset. Jim Clyburn, all these people are upset because Biden's doing what they do. You know, you expect some because you gave all this to them. Now you ain't getting anything.
Power absolutely nothing. I read that article yesterday. The civil rights leaders, the Mark Morial, Derek Forward from the NAACP, and they like, well, we don't want veto power. We just want to be consulted because Joe Biden is doing his thing. Like he done already used y'all. Y'all done funneled all these black votes into Joe Biden. Now they've gone on and doing what they're doing, and everybody complaining, well, he ain't appointing that many black people to his cabinet positions. And then people dragged Ice Cube. I keep going back to this because he actually put up a platform that was for the masses of black people and not just a few black people to get certain positions. Don't get me started on
politics like we would treat religion. It's an emotional thing. It's not a critical thinking
and it's got to be logical.
And it's you got to think about it. You got to understand. It's Zakiya, it's crazy to me that black people know when you talk about money, you diversify your money. You don't put your money in all this stock and this mutual fund, this bond. It's funny we know that in terms of our money, but when it comes to politics, we got to be all in on one side.
And it makes no sense. Nobody does that in any other area of life. Thank you for making that money analogy because people will get that.
Yeah.
You know, because no, you don't put all your money in one stock. Every financial advisor will tell you you are a daggone fool if you did something like that. But we do that when it comes to voting.
And so but I love it because when somebody consistent tells me who I am and I don't get it, it ain't their fault, it's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm consistently, this dude's been in office 40-something years. He built his platform on locking up, incarcerating, kicking it with Strom Thurmond, segregationists. And nobody changes at 70-some years old. We don't have no come to Jesus meeting at 70-some years old. You are who you are. Now, that doesn't to say I don't negotiate and do business with you. I just go in the game knowing who you are.
That's
and I got to have certain mechanisms in place to when you start acting up, I yank that. But I'm gonna tell you this: these young people coming up, because a young person, she's in a private college in up in the Northeast. She interviewed me. She said, "Young people ain't having it. They see what it is. We're not going that route. These 20-some, 19, 20, they're not gonna be like us. They're not gonna be like the people around us."
And I'm so inspired by that. I am so inspired by that.
They're not loyal to a party, and that's the other education. I gotta see. For me, I gotta put
political education.
I gotta put civics back in elementary school.
We have to all the way in elementary school. We got to start teaching it to our kids, even in elementary school.
That's what I'm gonna put civics back. My children gonna learn civics. You know what I'm saying? I have another motto: read it, write it, learn it, teach it. In order for me to teach it, I gotta learn it. I'm gonna relearn what I did. You know, a lot of stuff I forgot. I have to relearn it. You know, you write it, you learn it, and teach it. At the end, you got to be the teacher. Everybody has to be the teacher. Everybody has to educate somebody. And I'm starting with these babies because I got some babies in there. They 7 years old. In 2 or 3 years, they leading classes. Even my ACT prep, I tell my parents, that's why I get some 7th graders, because I tell them, I said, by the time you're in the 9th grade, you're going to be teaching my English, my ACT prep English. You'll be teaching my reading, because you can relate to them better than I can.
Right.
So we gotta, that's how you get more educators. You put the kids in the children in position to be educators. So, okay, you make a mistake. Teachers make a mistake. I make mistakes. The mistake is not going to define you. You know what I'm saying? And so you put them in that space, and that's how we change the game, because those children would change the game quicker than I can.
Right.
Man. So that's what we do, STEAMing. And again, it's just not me. I look at Marcus Garvey School in LA. That's an inspiration. I look at Marva Collins back in the day.
Yes, Marva Collins. I was talking about her with our CEO, Chris Stewart, the other day, because he, if you're on Twitter, you should follow him. On Twitter, he did a 10-point plan for what Joe Biden.
What's his name again?
Chris, the CEO's name is Chris Stewart, but his Twitter hashtag is called Citizen Stewart. So if you follow him, and he did a 10-point plan for what education should look like under the Biden administration, and he laid out these things, and he got a lot of pushback, from teachers and union activists and things like that. But that was a critical point. And one of the things that they said to him, well, are you an educator? Have you ever been an educator? They love to throw that up to people as if parents' observations of their children, right, has no significance, and it does. And I brought up to him, I said, next time they tell you that, show them clips of Marva Collins, because there's still clips of her. They made a whole movie about her. Cicely Tyson.
I saw it.
So I was like, you got to go back and show them clips of her frustration when she was inside the system with these educators. Right. She was one of the few who actually believed in the students.
Yeah.
And she left, started her own school, like you're talking about, so that she could teach these young people. And I think you're right. We have to get back to lifting up those names. When these
it's nothing
why our kids can't learn.
Fun, man. I'm just a sum of their work. I'm just learning from them again. And it's too many people out here. Imwali Barudi, he's in Atlanta. I could be in his school. Kamala
Samara, Kamali Academy.
Yes,
we use his curriculum for my daughter.
I just take what's out there and just put it in it's just gumbo. I just put it in my own flavor and just make it work for me. And that's what we got to do all over this country, man. We should have 1,000 private Black schools. And we can all sustain them. We don't need, again, that's why I'm saying a drive for 25. People got $25. You know what I'm saying? You can donate to a cause, $25, and you can look at my website and see where the money is going. You can go get references. You can do whatever. And I put it out there. Some people gave 100. Some people, and I said, I had $25 a month or $250 a year. Some people gave $250. Some people gave $500. Some people gave $100. But that's how we bridge the gap for our children, and we create curriculums that we can sell. I'm gonna sell curriculums next year. I'm gonna teach parents how to do this for themselves. You can do this, even if your kid is in public school.
And I think now you're on to something, especially since schools will likely be up in the air for the next couple of years. This is the prime time for you to be putting out those resources, because that's one of the things that I keep, people will hit me up privately. Do you have access to any curriculum for this age group? Do you know of this? And I've been normally just sending people to Samari Kamara, because he already has his website out. He sells his curriculum, and he does it, K through 12. And I like the fact that he actually focuses on elementary school, because that's the thing. It's like there's a bunch of curriculum out there, for middle school and high school, but you had a hard time finding curriculum in the elementary school. And so he's one of the few people that I knew that actually had his already packaged up where it could be sold to people. And that's the other thing, I'm not against online learning. I just don't think that should be the end all be all. I think that for the children where online learning actually works for them, by all means, let that be a part of the repertoire. But that for us to move in that direction, that's going to be pretty much the only form,
And then you know, like every parent got a grandmama, a great aunt, or somebody that ain't working. That should be a family forum and say, okay, our baby's got to learn. We're gonna teach you how to teach this curriculum, and you're gonna be the person. You know what I'm saying? We all got family members who are unemployed. See, we can create stuff for our people.
Yeah.
We got maybe an 18, 19-year-old male at the house unemployed. Okay, well, you can teach. While you find your job, you can teach such and such. You know, we can take shifts. Mama got the early shift. Daddy got the late shift. Grandmama got this Saturday shift. We can work it out. We can open our minds and say, look, we can do it. What did Marcus Garvey say? Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
That's right.
Will, if you want it bad enough, we can get it. And so, again, I just want to be that vessel to say, here, we can do this. You know, I'm the type of person, if I don't know it's Zakiya, I'm going to find out about it. Or I know somebody that knows. I'm not going to accept not knowing. That's just not in my repertoire. So we got to educate our children, man. There's nothing else. Again, parents, and I'll say this, parents, you're going to have to reprioritize. All that extracurricular stuff, and Johnny can't read, you're going to have to, and see, oftentimes parents don't want to be the bad guy. You know, their feelings get in the way. You're the mama, you're the father. You ain't here to be their friend. You're here to do a job. Your job is to get this child to womanhood and manhood and be all that it can be in this world and give it back to the world. Your job ain't to be their friend. So you got to make difficult decisions.
That's right.
You have to, you know, and parents call me going to the schools and they want to, I sit in plenty of parent-teacher conferences because parents ain't comfortable like that.
Right.
System. I sit there. I say, they don't know what I know.
I've done that too. Like go as a support with the parent. Yeah.
Yes, we got to do that for each other. We have to do that each other. We have to come up with scripts for our parents and say, this is what you ask. This is what you ask for. This is what they should do for your child. You know, there's information out there they should be doing for your child. And if you don't know, you ask them 1,500 times until it's clear in your head.
Right.
You're intimidated by the system. You are the system. I tell my parents, you are the educators. They are on your payroll. They supplement you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Schools actually, you the educator and they're the supplement. They just helping you out.
Right.
Change that thought process because they have PhDs and that don't mean nothing to me. They're a human being. She's a woman. He's a man.
Oh yeah, you love Chris. That was his point, you know, in terms of, because they'll throw that up in a minute. So, well, I have a PhD in this, and it's like, okay, but I'm the expert on my child. Thank you very much. You know, this has been great, Brother Reggie. We're at, you know, time today. You know, we definitely tell the people how they can support you and support your work, where they can find you. How can people find you? We've already, I think, linked to your website in the comments, but, you know, just go ahead and let the audience know a last word, and we'll be happy to have you back on at some point.
Yeah, I would love to be back. My name is Reggie Jenkins, Executive Director of UUNIK Academy. I also have Steaming Learning Institute. My information, you go to my website, UUNIKacademy.org, or you can email me at info@unikacademy.org. You can contact me by phone, 865-384-4475. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't usually use my Twitter account that much, but I do have a Twitter account. So you can just UUNIK. You ain't gonna find nothing else. Just Google search that, and I appreciate the opportunity. I love what you're doing. I'm a great supporter of yours. You keep pushing, fighting a good fight, and we'll talk soon.
That's right. Thank you, brother. And I want to invite everybody back next week. We'll have a show next week, and then we'll take a break the rest of the month, the holiday break season. So thank you all so much for watching today. We'll see you